You didn't fall for them because they were safe. You fell for them because they felt familiar. And sometimes what feels familiar is not love. It's the echo of every wound you never healed. Because if they were emotionally safe, your heart would have rested, not raced. If they were safe, you would have felt calm, not addicted. If they were safe, you wouldn't still be trying to convince yourself that what hurt you was love. But here you are, missing someone who made you anxious, longing for someone who made you doubt yourself, remembering someone who never made you feel steady, and wondering how in the world you managed to give your heart to a place where it never felt at home. And you judge yourself for that. You tell yourself you should have known. You blame your heart for being weak. You replay moments asking how you didn't see it coming. But the truth is, you didn't fall for chaos by accident. You were drawn to it on a nervous system level, on a memory level, on a wound level. You were not choosing heartbreak. Your body was choosing what it recognized. Because what feels safe to your nervous system is not always what is healthy. It is simply what is known. And if instability was part of your emotional world growing up, then inconsistency does not scare you. It attracts you. If you had to work for attention, then effort feels romantic. If you had to earn love, then distance feels meaningful. If you felt unseen, then being half seen feels intoxicating. And suddenly, someone who offers you emotional scraps starts to feel like a feast. Not because they are, but because you were starving long before they arrived. So when they appeared, emotionally distant, emotionally unpredictable, emotionally unavailable, your heart did not feel warned. It felt activated. It felt awake. It felt alive. Because the emotional energy they created was intense, and intensity can mimic intimacy when you've never been held gently. They kept you guessing. They kept you hoping. They kept you waiting. And in that waiting, your heart built a world around them. Their moods became your weather. Their silence became your anxiety. Their attention became your oxygen. And slowly, without realizing it, your entire emotional life began to orbit someone who was never emotionally present. You weren't in love. You were in survival mode. Because emotionally unsafe people do not offer peace. They offer pursuit. And pursuit feels like purpose when you've never had safety. You tell yourself you love deeply. You tell yourself you were loyal. You tell yourself you were patient. But patience that hurts is not love. It is endurance. And you endured too much. You adjusted too much. You stayed quiet too much. You accepted too little, because on some level you believed if you could just love harder, understand more, forgive quicker, then maybe they would finally soften. Maybe they would finally choose you. Maybe you could make them safe. But emotionally unsafe people are not softened by your effort. They are exposed by it. Because the more you give to the wrong person, the emptier you become. And the emptier you become, the harder you cling. And the harder you cling, the smaller you feel. Until one day you wake up and realize you are tired in a way sleep cannot fix. You are tired of guessing, tired of waiting, tired of hurting quietly, tired of loving loudly into a place that echoes silence. And yet, even after all that, you still miss them. You still think about them. You still feel something when you hear their name. And that confuses you. Because if they hurt you, why do you miss them? If they were wrong for you, why does your chest still tighten? If they were unsafe, why does your heart still reach? And the answer is simple and painful. You did not fall in love with them. You bonded to what they gave you in between the hurt, the rare softness, the brief warmth, the moments when they almost felt safe. Those moments became your addiction, not because they were real, but because they felt like hope. And hope is the most dangerous thing when it is attached to someone who cannot hold you, because hope convinces you to stay while you are shrinking. Hope convinces you the future will change the present. Hope keeps you loyal to what is breaking you. And every time they pulled away and then came back, your nervous system lit up. Not with peace, with relief. And relief is not safety. Relief is the absence of pain, not the presence of love. But your body didn't know the difference. It only knew that when they returned, the ache stopped. So it learned to associate them with survival. It learned that the same person who wounded you was also the person who temporarily healed you. And that is the most powerful emotional trap there is. Because now the pain and the comfort come from the same place. So you chase them, you crave them, you return to them, not because you feel safe with them, but because their presence makes the pain pause for a moment. And that moment feels like oxygen, even if it's killing you slowly. Emotionally unsafe people never fully hold you. They keep you at arm's length, close enough to want them, far enough to never feel secure. And that dynamic creates obsession, not love. Because love does not make you feel desperate. Love does not make you feel invisible. Love does not make you feel like you have to compete, perform, or prove. Love does not drain you. It builds you. And what you lived was not built. It was worn down. You became quieter. You became smaller. You became more afraid to speak. You stopped asking for what you needed. Not because you did not need it, but because you learned it would not come. So you learned to want less. And no one should ever have to want less in order to be loved. But when you are with someone emotionally unsafe, you do not realize you are shrinking. It happens slowly, quietly. In nights, you swallow your words. In mornings, you pretend you're okay. In questions, you stop asking. In needs, you stop naming. Until one day, you cannot find yourself anymore. And when it ends, or half ends, or becomes a painful distance, you are left with grief that feels larger than the person. Because you are not just mourning them. You are mourning who you became. You are grieving the pieces of you that disappeared while you were trying to stay. You are grieving the version of you that loved harder than they ever lifted. And that grief has weight. Because you did not just lose someone. You lost the time, the energy, the belief, the hope. And the hardest part is knowing you did not get back what you gave. Because emotionally unsafe people take more than they ever return. Not because they mean to, but because they do not know how to love in a way that does not cost you yourself. And it hurts to admit this. But if they were emotionally safe, you would not have been confused this often. If they were emotionally safe, you would not have felt lonely with them. If they were emotionally safe, you would not have questioned whether you mattered. If they were emotionally safe, you would not have wondered where you stood. And that truth stings, because it forces you to see the story differently, not as something beautiful that ended, but as something painful that lasted too long. And once you see that, your heart begins to heal. Not because the pain disappears, but because the illusion does. You start to understand that what you fell for was not who they were. It was who you hoped they would become. You loved their potential, not their pattern. You stayed for their maybe, not their reality. And potential is the most dangerous place to live emotionally, because it keeps you present with someone who is absent. You are in love with a future that is not coming. You are loyal to a version of them that does not exist. And as long as you are loyal to that illusion, you will continue to abandon yourself. And you have abandoned yourself long enough. You do not need someone who gives you anxiety. You do not need someone who makes you earn affection. You do not need someone who treats your heart like an inconvenience. You need safety. You need steadiness. You need someone whose presence softens you, not unsettles you. Someone whose love does not feel like a test. You are constantly failing. Someone whose silence does not make your stomach drop. Someone whose absence does not steal your peace. And listen carefully. You did nothing to deserve emotional danger. You were not wrong for loving deeply. You were not weak for hoping. You were not foolish for trying. You were human. And humans attach to what feels familiar, even when it hurts. Because your heart did not choose danger. It chose recognition. It chose something that reminded you of something older than them, something unfinished inside you. And that does not make you broken. It means something in you is asking to be healed. And now, maybe for the first time, you are listening. Because now you are tired in a different way. Not just tired of them, tired of disappearing, tired of waiting, tired of making excuses, tired of calling pain love. And that tiredness is a beginning, because people do not change when they feel motivated. They change when they are exhausted, and you are exhausted in a way that finally demands truth. And the truth is this: emotionally safe love does not make you ache. It does not hollow you out. It does not leave you guessing. Emotionally safe love feels like rest, like breath, like warmth that stays. And if you have never experienced that, then survival will feel like passion. Chaos will feel like chemistry, and distance will feel alluring. But once you heal, that changes. Suddenly, the people who once fascinated you will feel loud. The relationships that once consumed you will feel empty. The intensity you once chased will feel exhausting, and calm will begin to feel beautiful. Consistency will begin to feel rare. Kindness will begin to feel powerful, and you will look back one day and not understand how you mistook pain for love. But do not be ashamed of that. You learned through suffering what many never learn at all. You learned what you will not tolerate again, and that matters. One day, you will love again, and it will feel nothing like this. It will not be dramatic. It will not keep you awake. It will not tear you apart. It will feel simple, clear, quiet. And at first, you might not trust it, because safety feels foreign after chaos. But if you stay with it, if you let it settle, you will realize something beautiful. Love does not hurt. It heals. Love does not constrict. It expands. Love does not confuse. It clarifies. And that is how you will know when you are finally home. Not because your heart is racing, but because your heart is resting. And that is what you deserved all along. Not someone to survive, but someone to be safe with. If you and I are anything alike and you want to keep walking this path with me, then subscribe.